Okay, it's going to be a video for the new Tanchjim Ola. It's a 10mm budget set. It's about $42.99 I'm seeing on Amazon right now. It's using something called a DMT driver, DMT4 architecture dynamic loudspeaker. It's got a plastic quality that's very similar to the CCA CRA. It's actually pretty much identical. When it came out of the box, the right side had a... Actually, I don't know if when it came out of the box, when trying to measure it and not able to get the tip on that I always can get on, I discovered that the nozzle on this side was almost square-shaped and the filter was slightly damaged. So went ahead and measured it, listened to it. After a period of time during listening impressions, the right side cut out. I switched this cable to a tri-pin cable, and that actually seemed to work. So I thought, okay, even though this looks damaged, it's the cable that I guess got damaged too. So I switched out the cable, went to another one. That worked for a little bit, and a few minutes later, that didn't work either. And then I used another cable, and it doesn't work anymore. So I think that it never was the cable. It was always this driver just maybe cutting in and out, and changing the cable was just a coincidence that it worked for a little while. So my listening impressions were about an hour, not very long, but I was able to come to a couple conclusions, but I'm really not even going to share those. I'm going to show you instead of tell you. I'm going to show you what this tuning does, because I can, and because that's easy, because there's software to do that. So this is the Ola. It's a budget set. It's built like a budget set, and it's tuned for a very, very, very particular library. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what I mean by that. Okay, brief review of the Tanchjim Ola. It's not a high fidelity set. It's not doing faithful reproduction. It's not a neutral set, because it does take away, adding or taking away from anything takes that away from being neutral. If I add a lot of bass, I'm coloring. That's not neutral. If I take away late treble, that's coloring. That's not neutral. If I take away anything that impacts the overall replay, that's not neutral. That's coloring, actually. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. This is a graph of the set. I might overlay a set that, an image that highlights the area that I'm going to focus on. Looking at the upper mids and treble, the tuning looks really brilliant. And the mids pretty much are not a problem. When you get to 100 hertz, we run into a definite problem, and it's audible to the ear. And let me go ahead and not talk about it. Let me go ahead and show you that. And the first sample will be Dreams. This will be a female singer, and we're going to isolate the area in question, which is 100 hertz and below, what's there and what isn't there. And I'll go ahead and play that for you now. Okay. Okay, that is Dreams, and let me go ahead and take that out. In that sample, you can hear the basses clearly. You can hear a couple of his chords, and you can hear the drummer, of course. And if you're familiar with Fleetwood Mac, the 100 hertz region only, everything after that completely removed, you can tell what song that is by the beat. I know what song that is, but I know Fleetwood Mac, but I think a lot of people that are generally into rock and roll, dun 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 dun. I think most people would probably catch on if somebody said, what song is that? I think you could pick it out. So if you take a part of a song away, that itself and isolated is enough to identify the song, I think that's kind of a problem. So the neutrality of this set actually really doesn't exist, because it's not staying out of the mix. It's actually enforcing itself by its tuning into the mix. Because of that, this is something that obviously couldn't be used for anything in my library, including classical. There's no way that you could listen to a full orchestra with all that exists in the low end, and there's a lot there, and just cut that off and enjoy that. I suppose that Some people were critical of one of my collabs, the Melee, and they said, you know, it's great for rock and roll, but it's not so good for, you know, K-pop and this other stuff. Okay, I get that. This would be a set that's even more niche because it doesn't play many genres, obviously. And I'm going to go ahead and play one more sample here. This is, I'll just play it first. Okay, let me take that down. That's another song when isolated to 100 hertz. If someone said, can you pick this out, please listen, I could pick that out as Exodus by Bob Marley. And again, that's just the region 100 and below that we're listening to. It's kind of amazing how much info there actually is down there. I'm going to do a video in the future talking about extension and how much actually isn't up there. It's very overstated when people talk about extension, because I've listened to it and I've done all kinds of stuff with different files, but I've kept it to myself. So there's a lot of things that get parroted within the hobby. Suffice to say that when you take something from 100 hertz and you take away this much, you're going to impact the quality of the replay tremendously for some, less so for others. It's a neutral set is not the case. It's a set that is okay with multiple genres. I wouldn't know what those genres are. I did listen, and I do have samples of some K-pop and Vocaloid, and there is info that you're missing, but there's not a lot of backbeat in some of those, so I can see how there's a target for this set. It's clearly not me, but in previous sets that clearly were targeted, it wasn't as kind of drastic as this. So you've got a set that's put in plastic, like a $15 CCA CRA. It fits almost, it's barely a fit like the O2. The cable on mine, I'm sorry, the cable's fine. The right side, as I showed in the picture, came out damaged, so the QC on this is not that great. The tuning is very niche, and you should be aware of that before you purchase it. Listen to it if you want to up the bass and make it so that excellent looking treble. I would love to comment on the quality of the mids and the upper mids treble, but with an hour of listening time and switching cables in between, I never really got the time to focus on it. If I were to stretch myself, I'd say it didn't sound really special, considering, but I guess every set advertises their drivers as having, like the Melee, the dual chamber, blah blah blah. It's kind of marketing stuff. So I guess they got to do the same thing. Great company. I love the O2. I love the Honda 2021. I think that's one of the better DDs, period. I love that set. The Prism, not so much. This, going into the budget realm, not for me, and not really for anybody that listens to classical, jazz, rock, hip-hop, or R&B. There's so many other options out there. I don't know why you'd pick this one. And that's the Tanchjim Ola. And in the future, when I get stuffs that have fails, like I had, when I had a few previous fails last year, several of them, I just moved along. I'm not going to do that any longer because I can't criticize the industry for not doing well and then skip over their mistakes. Doesn't make any sense, so I won't be doing that anymore. And this is a set that's got poor QC and poor tuning, in my opinion. If that sounds harsh, I don't even know what to say. I'm out.